The fence leaned beneath the wide western sky like an old man burdened by years of wind, sun, and waiting. Its wooden rails were weathered, scarred, and split, yet stubbornly upright, holding the prairie at bay. Beyond it, the grass stretched endlessly, trembling faintly in the evening light. Dust floated through the air, suspended like golden motes, settling slowly with the patient grace of the land itself. Whoppy Calder stood a few paces away, boots pressed into the earth, hat pulled low, hands resting loosely at his sides. At 30, he carried himself with the quiet authority of someone who had lived with loss and learned that survival often demanded solitude. His eyes, dark and unwavering, held memories he had spoken of to no one, secrets too heavy to share. "Just fix the fence and leave by dawn," he said. His voice was calm, measured, deliberate, not cruel, not sharp, but carrying the weight of experience. Boundaries kept life simple. They kept grief at a manageable distance. Yet as the words left him, they seemed heavier than intended, lingering like dust that refused to fall. Amelie Red Willow knelt beside the fence, one knee pressed into the soil, hands gripping a loose post. Her fingers were scraped, her arms sun-darkened, her sleeves rolled back to reveal strength earned through labor. Her long, dark hair was braided neatly, though strands had escaped to cling to her cheeks. She did not speak, did not flinch, simply continued her work, striking the hammer in careful rhythm. When she finally lifted her eyes, they were steady, calm, showing no anger, no fear, only acceptance, a quiet wisdom born of hardship. She nodded once, small, restrained, then returned to the fence. The sound of the hammer echoed across the prairie, measured, deliberate, as though marking time itself. Whoppy lingered. The silence unsettled him more than anger could have. Obedience without resentment carried a weight he had not anticipated. He turned toward the cabin, telling himself this was how things must be. Work completed, obligations met, paths separated before dawn. Inside, the cabin smelled of old wood and faint smoke. A scarred table sat near the window, 2 chairs facing it, and a narrow bed lined the wall, while another remained folded and unused. Whoppy set his hat down carefully, poured water into a tin cup, and drank slowly, focusing on that simple act as though it might calm the storm inside. Outside, the hammer struck again, echoing faintly, each sound resonating like a pulse through his chest. He reminded himself he was doing the right thing. The town already watched him closely. A man alone could survive scrutiny, but a man who extended kindness where it was not expected invited suspicion. Whoppy had learned this lesson years ago, when compassion had cost him deeply, and silence had been the only refuge untouched. Distance had become his shield. Distance kept grief predictable. Distance kept hope from demanding more than he could give. Night arrived quietly. The sky darkened, stars appearing one by one. The wind slipped through the broken fence, carrying the scent of earth and cold air. Amelie worked beneath the lantern's glow, her movements slower, deliberate, precise. Fatigue pressed into her bones, but she did not stop. Survival, she had learned, required patience and endurance. She had nowhere to go at dawn, no hearth awaiting, no familiar door to knock upon, but she bore it silently, like water carried carefully across a desert. When tears came, she tried to suppress them, pressing her hand to her lips. The first sob reached Whoppy faintly. He thought it was the wind. Then it came again, soft, trembling, undeniably human. His chest tightened. He froze, hand resting on the doorframe, and for the first time in years he did not look away. Stepping outside, he found her sitting beside the fence. Moonlight spilled across the yard, pale and honest, illuminating her form, her shoulders drawn inward. She was not crying loudly, she was breaking quietly as if the world had already demanded too much. When she sensed him, she wiped her face quickly, ashamed not of the tears themselves but of being seen. Whoppy did not see weakness. He saw deep exhaustion, a surrender so quiet it spoke louder than any words. Her tears asked for nothing, and that was what shattered something inside him. "Amelie," he said softly. Her head lifted. The sound of her name, spoken gently, startled her. Her eyes searched his for threat or cruelty and found none. She hesitated, then nodded. He returned moments later with a blanket and a cup of warm water. He offered them without expectation, and she accepted. Their fingers brushed briefly, a touch that lingered longer than either expected. They sat together beneath the moonlight, in a silence that was shared, not cold. Without speaking, they returned to the fence. Whoppy held the board steady while Amelie drove the nails. She passed tools without looking, trusting his presence beside her. They fell into rhythm, silent and precise. The fence straightened slowly, each rail a testament to quiet care, mutual reliance and growing trust. By dawn the fence was repaired. Dew clung to grass blades like silver. Amelie gathered her bundle, brushing dirt from her dress, ready to depart. The road beyond waited, indifferent and endless. Hoofbeats echoed as Sheriff Harlan Pike rode past, eyes lingering briefly, a reminder that all choices were observed. Amelie raised her foot to step onto the road. "Wait," Whoppy said. She froze. "You don't have to leave," he said, voice steady. "Not today. Not if you don't want to." She turned slowly, disbelief flickering across her face. He met her gaze without fear, without expectation. "I won't promise what I cannot keep," he added. "But I won't send you back either." After a long silence, she nodded. "Not surrender. Not compliance. Trust." Weeks passed. Amelie stayed first as a guest, then as someone integral to the ranch. She learned the land, the cattle, the rhythm of Whoppy's days. He learned her quiet laughter, the way she hummed while brushing horses, the small gestures of care she performed, water poured for thirsty animals, blankets folded neatly on cold mornings, firewood stacked with meticulous care. Their bond grew not through words, but through silent understanding, shared labor, and mutual respect. One morning after a long winter, Amelie tended a small garden Whoppy had started. Hands in soil, she whispered to the roots, speaking softly as if they could hear her. Whoppy carried a basket of eggs and knelt beside her, helping plant seeds. Their hands brushed in the earth, lingering longer than necessary. The sun glinted on her hair, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. They laughed softly, a sound rare and precious, echoing faintly across the fields. Summer followed. Evenings stretched long and golden. They shared meals outside, under the open sky, watching cattle graze. Nights were spent on the porch, legs dangling, stars above. Conversation grew easier, laughter longer. Small gestures, a hand on a shoulder, a brush of fingers while reaching for a tool, spoke louder than any declaration. One evening, beneath a sky filled with stars, Whoppy spoke, voice trembling slightly. "I don't want to live this life alone." Amelie searched his face for hesitation, for fear, and found none. She smiled, a quiet, luminous smile, and took his hand. That night, under the prairie sky, they acknowledged the truth of their hearts. Their marriage was simple and honest. No ceremony, no grand display, only vows whispered beneath open sky and kept through daily life. They built a home, a family, and a life of quiet dignity. Every day was stitched together with care, patience, and love in gestures large and small. Over the years, children came, laughter echoed through the cabin, and even the land seemed to soften around them. Seasons passed, and the prairie continued its timeless rhythm. Yet the fence, once broken, now stood straight and strong, a symbol of endurance, patience, and love chosen deliberately. One evening as the sun dipped low, Whoppy stood beside Amelie, watching the prairie bathe in golden light. He traced the fence with his eyes, seeing in it the story of their lives, broken, repaired, and strengthened by time and care. The land, the ranch, the quiet home, they were theirs together, proof that patience, trust, and courage can reclaim even the most guarded hearts. Some fences are not meant to keep people out. Some fences mark the place where love begins. And so, Whoppy and Amelie lived, not only surviving but truly living, their hearts intertwined, their home full of laughter, labor, and the enduring magic of connection. Each day, small acts of care became their vows, each glance a quiet promise, each touch a reassurance that they would never again face life alone. The prairie stretched endlessly, and beneath its vast sky, two lives, once separate, had finally become one.